the relationship between language, culture and identity. We should know what is language, what is culture and what is identity. It is one of the favorite topics these days, not only in the fields of linguistics, but also in the fields of social sciences. First of all, we should know what is culture. Edward Taylor, he defines culture as a complex whole that includes knowledge, morals, beliefs, art, law, technology, habits, customs, traditions of the members living in a particular area. It is a body of many things, of your traditions, of your habits, of your knowledge, of your beliefs, of your morals, of your arts, law, literature, anything you do in a society, it is your culture. We also know that culture is transmitted from one generation to another generation, okay? And thus the process is continued. A culture dies when this transfer from one generation to the other generation stops. Or in the other case, if there is no one to practice a particular culture, the culture dies away. Okay? How this culture is transmitted? It is transmitted from parents to their children through many ways. But the most useful or the most convenient way is language. What is language? We are human beings. We communicate, we use language to interact the other human beings living with us in a particular area in a society. We speak out our needs. We listen to our needs and choices. We share our beliefs. We share our habits with each other. So language is an interactional medium, a medium of communication. Okay? There is another process going on. We learn our language through culture. So it is a two-way process. Culture is transmitted through language and language is learned through culture. Because our language is culturally transmitted from one generation to another generation. So it is a very complex relationship. It is not straightforward. Now, what is identity? Living in a society while using a language, we develop certain identities. Our gender is one identity. I am a male and another one is female. So she has a different identity than mine. Social status could be a base for an identity. A rich identity and poor identity. Age could be a factor in identity. Religion could be a factor, a Muslim, a Christian. So we develop different identities while living in a society according to different factors. Mendoza-Denton defines identity as the active negotiation of an individual relationship with larger social constructs. There are different social constructs in my society. Okay? How do I approach different things in the society? Identity is reflected through language. Your language reflects your birth identity, your national identity. When two people are talking and they are speaking English, you can easily come to know that this is Pakistani and this is American. Why? Because through their language, you can come to know about their national identity. We discover and rediscover identities through language. Okay? Now, while understanding the relationship of language, culture and thought, we need to know the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, the intercultural communication. Language is reflection of identity and culture, and what is the effect of this relationship on language policy and language and power. This relationship will define my language policy in this society and the relationship of language and power, how power is structured in my society. So first of all, we should know what is Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Whorfian hypothesis simply says that language influences or determines thought. Sapir and Whorf, these were two linguists. Okay, Edward Sapir and Benjamin Whorf said, we look to the world through language. Okay, it has two versions. One is strong version and the other is weak version. The strong version says that language determines thought. What does it mean? That the language you speak determines the way you perceive the outer world. So, it is the language you speak determines the way that you will interpret the world around you. If your language gives you permission, or if your language has a space of interpreting a particular thing in your society, you might be able to interpret it. But if there is no space in your language for the interpretation of a particular thing in your society, you will be unable to interpret it because your thought is determined by the language you are using. Okay? This is the strong version. For example, in the culture of Vietnamese, when visiting a newborn baby, we usually say that she or he is very ugly, to mean that the baby is so cute. Vietnamese do not use direct saying to compliment a newborn baby. It is the part of their culture. And the hypothesis says that their thought is controlled by their language because their language does not permit the user to direct compliment. That's why they use a very negative thought that the baby is so ugly. It is a negative thought. Why they are using this negative thought? Because their thought is controlled by their language. There is another example. Sapphire Orf, they have given the example of Eskimos who are living on the pole. They consider in their language stone is living thing. For example, when we say that we have broken a stone, because in our language it is non-living, they say we have killed a stone because they consider in their language stone is animate. And Orphean hypothesis says it is because of their language that their language has animate noun case for non-living things. So they are compelled to use the non-living things as living things because of their language use. In grammatical gender, I'll give you another example. And just for your understanding, it might not be that much applicable. But if I say darwaza in Urdu, if I say darwaza kula hai, what does it mean? That it is muzakkar, masculine. I do not say darwaza kuli hai because it is not feminine. So, my language has this masculine and feminine categories for non-living things. And I am using it the way my language has category for these things. I know personally that this is not feminine. When we talk about gender, we talk about sexual orientation. A female sexual orientation is feminine. A male sexual orientation is masculine. How can we say that a book has in Urdu a female sex orientation? It is that language that has somehow controlled my thought. And I am approaching the book the way my language has permitted me. I am looking to the book through my language. Isn't it the case? This is for your understanding. The strong version of this hypothesis is also known as linguistic determinism. If somebody asks you what is linguistic determinism, it means the strong version of Sapphire-Whorf hypothesis, in which they say that language determines thought. The weak version of this hypothesis is called linguistic relativity. Now, what linguistic relativity or the weak version says? It says that language influences thought. It does not determine thought, instead it influences thought. The strong version has been discarded by many people. Most of the linguists and the people, they do not agree with the strong version, but most of them, they do agree with the weak version. Because one way or the other way, language influences thought. Okay? Most of the people, and even I and even you people, might be in favor of this weak version, because some way we feel that our language, the language we are using, it influences our thought. Okay? There are many experiments conducted in France, America, UK, in which it has been proved that your language, the language a person uses, influences his or her thought. Okay? In the first part, when we say that language influences thought, our thought, what is thought? Our thought, it is a part of our culture, because our thought becomes our actions, and our actions and beliefs, they are our culture. Okay? So it means that language influences culture. If it influences thought, it influences culture. And through this influence, we form our identity. The way I think, it is my identity. If I think in Islamic scenario, I have Islamic identity. So there is a direct relationship between language, culture, and thought, looking at sapphire or hypothesis, especially the weak version. Let's discuss this second part, intercultural communication. Intercultural communication generally refers to face-to-face interaction among people. You know what is communication? Communication is a process of sending message from sender to receiver. Intercultural communication, communication between people from
different cultures.
living in a particular area. If the sapphire orb hypothesis states that there are certain thoughts of an individual in one language that cannot be understood by those who live in another language, the sapphire orb hypothesis says that a thought of one language user might be ununderstandable for another language user because of linguistic relativity or linguistic determinism. The way this person looked to the world is different from the way this person is looking to the world, because this person is looking to the world through English language and this person is looking to the world through Pashto language. And it might be the case that Pashto language user might be considering a table is masculine, and this masculinity of the table might not be understood by this English because he might be considering a table as a neuter gender. So this thought is ununderstandable by him. And the reason is linguistic relativity or linguistic determinism. What is intercultural communication? Samwer and Porter, they define intercultural communication is that it occurs when a member of one culture understands a produced by another whose culture is different from them. Intercultural communication takes place when a person of one culture communicates with the person of another, because it is inter. It is not intra, it is inter. It is between two different cultures. And we might be unable to understand some of the things in our communication. There is a possibility of communication gaps. We can say that when people from different cultures, they interact with each other, there might be some intercultural gaps between them, because it might be the case that in one culture, one particular social phenomena or a word might be considered respectful, but the same very word might not be considered respectful in another culture. Okay? In this case, when these people from different languages, they communicate with each other, they should respect their differences, because their languages are different, their cultures are different, and the way they produce their identities through their particular cultures and through their particular languages, they are different. Language influences thought and culture influences language. So if the cultures are different, intercultural communication becomes a bit difficult. People might not understand each other. Okay? In this case, working out this matter, we need to understand our differences, we need to understand the differences of other people. People belonging to different cultures are still able to understand their language, the language of other people, the culture of other people, if they try to respect the differences. There are some disagreements and some misunderstanding between people because of intercultural communication, because of different cultures interactions in a particular area. Now, in order to minimize this risk, we need to learn intercultural communication. We need to know how culture is expressed in a language and how one person from one culture interact with another person from another culture, and what could be the differences between these two people when they interact with each other. When we come to know about these differences and these misunderstandings, we will not face any issue in future. So it's a better idea. This subject is nowadays taught in different degrees, especially at MPhil level. Some people, they teach this intercultural communication as a subject. This is how we understood about the relationship of language and culture. When we study sapphire orb hypothesis and intercultural communication, we come to know that there is a direct relationship between language and culture. In one case, language might influences this culture or thought, or in the other case, this culture might influences the language which is used by an individual. Now another important factor is language and identity. As we have discussed earlier, the identity is the active negotiation of an individual relationship with the society. Okay, these social constructs have been understood as gender, ethnicity, or class. When we say that identity is the active negotiation of an individual relationship with the social constructs in the society, what are those social constructs? These are gender, ethnicity, religion, and class majorly, and class majorly. There are some other constructs as well, but these are the major constructs through which people build their identities. A person may have one national identity, one religious identity, one gender identity, and one class identity. A person's identity can be understood through who the person is and how he is seen by the world. This defines his identity. According to Zimmerman, 1998, there are three major types of identity. Discourse identity. Discourse identity, which is revealed through particular discourse and presented by speakers or hearers. Your discourse identity is revealed to me through your discourse. Okay, the way you speak a language or the way you perceive your language. Then situational identity. Situational identity is revealed through specific situation. Situational identity is based on the situation where you are working or where you are living. This example is very interesting. I have dual nationality, for example. I have one American nationality, the other is Pakistani nationality. Now it is my choice. While living in Pakistan, I have one situational identity, that is Pakistani. But while living in America, I have another situational identity because my situation is now different from this situation. This choice can even be crucial of his personal scrutiny. When you are scrutinizing, analyzing that person, you will be focusing on his situational identity, where he is situated this time. Then transportable identity, which applies across situation and discourses and includes such constructs as ethnic, gender, and age. Transportable identity, which is according to your gender, according to your religion, or according to your age. That can be carried with you in any situation, to any situation, and whether you use any discourse, this transportable identity remains the same. For example, we both are from the same party, so we use any discourse in any situation, this identity remains the same. Language expresses identity. How do language expresses identity? For example, one person is from America and the other is from British, and both are speaking English. You will come to know that this is American and this is British through their pronunciation, even through their vocabulary. One say line and the other say queue. One say lorry and the other say truck. So language expresses identities. Even our grammatical structures expresses our identities. Our vocabulary, our pronunciation, our dialect, it expresses our identity and our culture. It does not only reflect religious identity, situational identity, it also reflects transportable and discourse identities. A female's language is different from a male language. A Muslim's language might be different from a non-Muslim language. A person living in America, his English might be different than a person living in Pakistan. So identities are expressed through language and it can be easily recognized. Thus we can say that language has a direct relationship with culture and identity, both. It's a complex relationship. Sometimes your culture influences your language and your identity. Sometimes your language influences your culture and your identity. Now, what are the implications of this relationship? I told you two things: language policy and language and power. The implication of relationship between language, culture, and gender on language policy. Okay, learning and teaching another language will be more interested once we discover the beauty of a language. If we are learning English language and we know the beauty of English language, it will become interesting for the students to learn English language. Isn't it the case?
Yes.
It should be exploited effectively for a better teaching, therefore a motivated learning might be obtained. Learning a new language means accessing new culture, because language is a part of culture. If you are learning a new language, Urdu language, you might be understanding something from Urdu culture or English culture if you are learning English. Teaching students how to internalize selectively is also a leading concern a language teacher should pay much attention to. Besides conveying the beauty of the second language, we also can tell them that this is their culture, whether you want to follow this particular area in that culture or you do not want to follow that culture, but their language, the other language, it might gives you a new idea of culturing your students. Okay? Then, being a language teacher, a person should assume that we should realize deeply language and power, as well as language policy to have an appropriate thinking to do teaching in the classroom. Language and power. During the period of domination in some countries, whether colonizers governed directly or indirectly the political and cultural of those who were greatly affected. The people's wealth was the colonizer's real aim. However, economic and political control can never be obtained without mental control. It means that one's language, which is a part of a culture, the tool of self-definition in a relationship to other, is under control, the people will be truly colonized. Language and power, it is a game of language. Previously, when these English people, they colonized people, they wanted to dominate and to replace and to change their culture so that they become mental slave. And how did they do this? They did it through their language. They brought English language to subcontinent and thus they changed our mental structures and we became mental slave of English culture. Because you cannot physically dominate a person until and unless you dominate him mentally. This was their aim. In order to gain our wealth, they disturbed our culture, our thoughts through their language. This is what this relationship is, and this is how it has implication on teaching and learning and language and power relationship. Thank you so much.